In this video, we're going to be exporting our character into separate layers that we can use to animate him in Maya. And more than that, we're going to be creating a character that is animatable. And what that means is we'll be making something that can be used for future projects, and not just for one particular animation, which is pretty cool. The first thing we need to do for this is actually hide our shadows. So what I'm going to do is select our character and duplicate him. And I'm going to go through and I'm just going to delete all of these. And you may be thinking, why did we spend all that time doing this if we're just going to delete them? The reason is because they look really cool for just a flat artwork, and I would encourage you to use them, but they are going to be problematic for the way we break up our character and animate him. And there are other ways of creating shadows in Maya that we won't cover in this video, but you will be able to find through the Autodesk website. And those will be a little bit more dynamic, and really they won't be creating any problems for us. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a new document. Just keep the same size. Doesn't really matter because while you can see white here, it's not gonna be white when we export this. I'm going to select the head and copy it. Come over here and paste it. And I'm going to scale it up so it's really big. Now, actually, before we scale it up, you can see that our stroke looks pretty big, but when we scale it, it's going to look pretty small. That's because the stroke is going to stay at 1 point. Instead, let's select this and go to Object, Expand Appearance. And that's going to make it so that when we scale up our character, actually it might not be Expand Appearance, it's just going to be Expand. Just go to Expand, and that's going to expand the stroke so that when we scale this up, the stroke stays the same size. Okay, so now that we've got that ready, we can go to File, Export, and I'm going to just export this right onto the desktop and save it as a PNG. And the reason that we do that is that the PNG is going to make this background transparent. It's going to just cut all the rest of this out. And that's going to be really handy for when we load it up into Maya. Alright, so now I can get rid of that. Do this with each individual piece. Expand that. And I actually, so that I can animate the arm, I'm going to have to do this separately. Alright, so I'm just going to do this as my arm. Yeah, okay. Just that, and then export this as arm.png. I can go ahead and delete that. Then I can go in, select just the collar. I'm going to go in and do this directly in the layers. Select just the collar and the shirt. And copy those. Actually, it looks like I've accidentally selected that as well. Just the collar and the shirt. Copy those and paste them. Looks like oops. Looks like I didn't get the collar in there. So let's add that. Alright, that looks good. Go to Object, Expand. Make that much bigger. Then I can go to Export. Body. Alright, and then when I animate the leg, I'm going to animate all of this together, so I can just do all of the foot and the leg. Expand that. Give me any problems with the foot? Nope. Okay. Make that much bigger. Not that much bigger. Okay. And then I'm going to go into File, Export, PNG, and save that. Now I can open up Maya, which is probably going to take a minute to load. Still haven't closed my Photoshop, so let's go ahead and close that. At this point I can actually close Illustrator. We won't be using it again. Okay, now that we have Maya open, let's check to make sure, yeah, we've got all of our characters' pieces on the desktop, and I am going to go into modeling and create a plane. Now, let's make this a little bit bigger. Good amount bigger. And I am going to rotate it. If you hold the J tool just to hold J and it'll snap to 15-degree increments. Okay, so now let's go to our front view. Looks like we'll have to rotate that. Go to our front view. And then under the attribute editor, you can go in here and make some more subdivisions. I'm going to go up to 20 for each of these. And then just to reiterate that this Maya section of this tutorial is completely optional. You don't need it to make a cool character. And I am only including it just because I was trying to do this once and the particular video I found was very informative, but the person who made it spoke only Korean. So this will be just supplementary. If you were looking for additional resources for this, they will be linked in the additional resources page on the website, and YouTube is also a fantastic resource to look through. But for right now, we're going to click on our plane here, and hit Control-D, duplicate that, and then scale this sideways a little bit. I'm gonna reduce the subdivisions on there. Where is this? Can't seem to find it. Alright, I'm gonna let's okay. Now that we've got Maya open, we can go up here, create a plane, and scale this up. Alright, and then I'm going to rotate it, holding down J to snap it to 15-degree increments so that it is standing up straight like this. We can go into our front view and see it right there. Now again, this section of the tutorial is supplementary, so if you don't want to use Maya or don't have the ability to, it's not necessary, and this section is being included because the resources to do this the way that we did it before are a little bit difficult to find online. So to start, we're going to take our plane and up the subdivisions just to give it a little bit more. Let's go up to 30 by 30. Alright, now I am going to duplicate this by pushing Control D and then dragging this out. And actually, I'm just gonna create a new plane. Alright, and then this one is going to need to be a little bit taller. And then increase the subdivisions. Let's go 20 by 30, 35. Okay. Now we're going to click back to one of these and go to UV and do a planar mapping. And then, let's see, is that Z-axis? Let's check, I think that's correct. So we're going to map that from the Z-axis, open up our texture editor, and yes, that looks correct. And then, now that we've done that, I'm going to go back to object mode. Really quickly, I'm going to duplicate this a few times. One more time. And then here I am going to go to assign new material. Go and pick Lambert, and then here under color we're going to click this icon here, go into file, and then it's going to open up this file panel. Click on the file icon, and then we can pick we pick the picture. Now we are going to have to go up here on the shelf and click texture. And you can see, since we use PNG, which has transparency instead of white here, it's just going to cut out everything except for our character's head. So that's looking pretty good. Now we just need to do that for these three. Let's go in and map those. Okay, so those look all good. We're going to assign materials for these. Same way, just go to the file, click file, and I'm gonna make that the leg. Alright, so that's a little stretched. We can fix that in a minute. Oh, I want to make a new material for that. Okay. Gonna go back in. Oops. Set this to be, let's make that the body. And that's really messed up. We'll go in and fix that. Let's make a new material there. And part of the reason that these are messed up is because I'm not doing this the best possible way. Maya's definitely not the program that I'm the most comfortable with. So ideally these would have been saved a little bit better, having to do with having extra stuff on the background for Illustrator, and the individual panels here should also be set to the same resolution as the shape, the image. So let's go in here, shrink that down a little bit so it doesn't look as fat. Okay, and now we have to, well, this one is just very big. Okay, I'm going to go into the UV texture editor here, and you can see that this is not using this space as effectively as it could be. So we're going to go in here, shrink this down. And does that cover that? Alright, that looks good. And then I guess we're going to go in here, scale this up. Okay, so now that we've got that, oops, fixed like that, and it's really fat, we can scale down the actual shape so that it's less messed up, but also using the entire mesh. So let's do that again for this. And again, this is mostly because I saved this poorly in the last video. These ideally should not include anything except for the just the sleeve or just the shirt body. Okay, so still a little big, but so let's shrink that down actually, so that it looks to be in about the right proportion. That looks about right. And let's see, is that looking to be about right? Yeah, pretty close. I think we might actually make this a little bit bigger. Oops. Looks like I've gone and cut some of this top of the shoulder off. So you can leave that and it will blend in pretty well actually to the shirt. You can see there. Oh, that's not in the right place. Or we can come in here and fix the UV a little bit, which is probably the better thing to do. Just scale that up a little bit. Alright. So I think that's going to be looking just fine. Now, I'm not going to be showing the entirety of this process, just what's necessary for you guys to go ahead and finish up the rest of the process. So, let's start with the leg here. Oops. The workflow from Maya to Illustrator is definitely different. So we're going to go up here to Rigging and click on the Joint tool. And I am using Maya 2016. It's going to look a little bit different in 2015 or whatever version you may be using. So we're just going to click up here to create a joint, and then I'm going to click right about here, right in there. That's where I think that I'm going to find the knee. And then right about here for the ankle, and then I'm going to make a separate one for the toe. Okay, so we've got our joints here, and one of the reasons we're doing this in front perspective is just to make sure they're in the right position there. Looks like we're gonna select. Actually, I don't think. Yeah, that doesn't need to be on. We just need to turn shading on for perspective mode as well, and you can see that this cuts the leg perfectly in half on the Z axis. So let's go back into our front view. I'm going to select this joint, this top joint, because if we select this, it's not going to select everything in the hierarchy, so we want to pick the highest joint in the hierarchy, and then shift-click on the mesh. Now we're going to go in and go to Bind Skin. Alright, and now our mesh has been bound to the skeleton here. And what that means is we can actually control this here. So if I want to move the knee around, I can just go ahead and move that. You may notice that we have a bit of a problem with warping on that pant leg. We really don't want that to be happening. So the way we fix that is by painting the skin weights, which we're going to use this tool here, the Paint Skin Weights tool. And then I'm going to go over here and bring this tool over here, this bigger one. And I've got this top joint selected. Now I want the top joint to be able to control everything on this object, and that's just going to be it's basically just going to be the hip joint. So I'm going to go to the value here, set that to 1, which is going to make it so that I'm painting with white here, and the white is going to be the part of the mesh that that particular joint is going to influence. So joint number 1, which is the hip joint, will influence all of the white in this object. So I'm just going to go ahead with replace selected and flood that. Now in joint 2, I want this to be able to affect everything below the knee. So I'm going to paint white for everything in here. And make sure you get everything, or you'll have some horrible looking animation. Alright, now under joint 3, which is going to be the ankle, I just want to be able to control everything under this ankle joint. Actually, a little bit higher, just because the shoe is going to come up a little bit, and I want the shoe to move better with the ankle. And then with the toe, I am just going to highlight this section here, just to get a bit of a toe bend on our walking. Okay, actually, maybe not even that much. Let's flood that black and then go back to our white and paint that a little bit better. Okay, so now we can go in here, and I'm going to actually select all this and bring it forward a little bit so that our perspective grid, or so that our grid is not in the way in front view. Or I suppose I could just go in and turn the grid off. That's better. Okay. So now we're going to go in here to our joints, and we can pivot them. Oops. And so that one's looking like it's working perfectly. This one's working a little bit better. Let's check my perspective. Okay, so the main thing you want to look for is that you're not rotating in this direction. That is not right. This is a two-dimensional character. We're never going to rotate in that dimension. But you can see there's a bit of warping here. So we'll come back to this. And it looks like we've messed up the foot here. And that's going to have to do with the skin weights being influenced down here for this joint. We don't want that either. And then, so now at frame 25, I am going to bring this up here and bend this forward. I'm going to save that for that joint and save that for that joint, creating keyframes on the timeline by pressing S. And then I can scrub through this, and you can see that in this animation he's destroying this ankle very slowly. Instead, what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to bring down the ankle. I'm going to bring this down a little bit as well. Oops, gotta save those. Alright. Now you can see we're still getting a bit of warping, and it looks pretty weird, probably because I actually rotated this in the wrong direction. Let's go with that, and then maybe a little bit less. Oops. A little bit less rotated, and did we go ahead and... Yeah, it looks like accidentally. Let's... Okay. So it does look like we're going to want this to go here. Okay, now that's looking a little bit better. We're going to save that there on the timeline. And you can see that it will actually give us a bit of a pivot there. It's not super prevalent. And this is going to look pretty strange there because of the way his leg's moving. Not really natural, but you do get in every one of these frames, you can see there's a little bit of warping just because of how weird the leg movement is, but we're not actually getting any warping except for right here on the ankle, which we can go in and fix. Resave that, and then we can scrub through, and we're not getting any of that problem anymore. So that is pretty cool. The main advantage to this that you're going to get is that if you are exporting a very small character, say for a video game or just a little animation, these imperfections are not going to be very visible. If you go through and fix your... Yeah, it looks like that was a bit of just a display problem. And it looks like I got a bit of a UV problem here in the bottom corner of the foot, which can be easily fixed. You could take this leg, duplicate it with another, and make a complete rig of this character, and export an animation all out into a 26 frame per second animation, which is going to look a lot better than something that you may be able to draw if you don't know how to draw. So, okay, so now that we've got that set up, I am going to go ahead and start in on the next part. I am going to go back to our joint tool. This is going to be the body. Don't really need a whole lot of control here, so I'm going to go with just kind of a three joint control here. We can go ahead and bind that, and then how that's bending. Oh, actually, it looks like I've done this a little bit backwards. That is not the best way to have done it. We're going to make it so that this parents at the hips, so that we can get a little bit more of a, oops, a little bit more of an accurate body mechanic there. So that if I grab this and it looks like he's bending over this way. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and do that one more time. And I'm going to put that up a little bit higher to where I think might look a little bit more natural. Now I'm going to go through here, bind that, select the skin weights, oops, click on the mesh, and go to the skin weights. Oh, I've done something wrong. Okay, that was a little bit dumb of me. Okay, so with this joint, I'm going to want to be able to just control everything. And then in here, just above here. And that's, of course, going to mess that up. But that should be fine. Okay, now this doesn't look ideal. This looks pretty bad. So let's go in here, and I am going to go to the smooth mode instead of replace, which is going to be not harsh, and flood that joint, and kind of just soften that up. Really soft. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Still not. Still a bit of a weird. Oops. Don't want to grab that axis. There we go. Still a bit of a weird movement. So I think we're going to go in and just paint it a little bit closer to like this. Let's see how that looks. Much worse, never mind. Alright, I think this is going to be what we've got. It is a little bit strange. Oops. But it will be looking okay with, let's see how that looks with an actual animation. And that looks okay. That's looking actually pretty good, actually. Now we are going to duplicate that. Alright, so now we've got two legs. And don't really need two legs right now. I'm going to go in here with the joint tool, finish up the arm. Bind that. Come in here and go to the skin weight tool. We'll flood that with white, go back to replace and flood that with white. Then I'm going to go in here and paint under the elbow where he's going to be rotating his elbow. Let's see how that looks. That looks alright. I think that we could maybe go ahead and smooth that out. Yeah, smooth that out. And I am seeing this fold here in the arm form. Oops. And I don't think it's necessarily bad. If it was something that you didn't want, you could go in here and just like we've been doing before, changing that. If you did want to change it, I would say that you probably want to undo that smooth, give the skin weight here a harder edge, and oops, and that would look a little bit better. So now that we've got that set up, we can set this back to 0, and I guess delete these keyframes because we don't really need any animation here. Now I'm going to go in and duplicate that. So now that we've got two arms and two legs, let's fix the head really quick. And I think we're just going to do one joint there, and I've done it in the wrong direction. We're going to start from here and go upwards. And for the head joint, oops, we're going to select this and bind that. And for the head joint, really just needs to look like this. We don't need to have any deforming in our head joint. So let's see if that undid. Okay. Now we can link everything together. And for this, we're going to go into perspective mode. I am going to take my hip here, and I'm going to assign one of these to be the right leg and one to be the left leg. Oops. It looks like this one doesn't have a skeleton. Oops, not what I wanted. Looks like I did that for that one too. So we'll just need to fix those. And we're going to just pretend that the skin weights are painted for all of these, because it's a bit of a pain. Now we can do this a little bit in 3 dimensions. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our character pieces And in this z-plane, I'm going to set this to 0, and I'm going to set this to 0.5, and then I'm going to set the leg to 1. Let's do that a little bit bigger. Dimensions. Now, let's see if I can get this right. We're going to select this hip joint and then the main body hip joint, and set that one. Alright, yeah, and then parent that joint. So we're parenting this joint here, or this joint here to this joint. So, and then we're just going to do the same thing here, getting it in the right position. Shift click onto that, parent, and then you can see that pulls off right there. Now, we're going to take our first arm here and set the Z translation, set that to the 3.5, so it's just above the, oh, we'll set it to just 3, I guess we'll move it later anyway, just 3. And then we're going to move this right up to here. And then select that joint there, that shoulder, and parent that. Do the same on the other side here. Select that joint and parent it. And then now I'm going to select this head. And I want the head to be in front. I want it to be in front there. And then I'm going to select that and parent that. And let's see if that worked. Did I do that right? Yeah, got that in there. Now, this is not the cleanest rig. I am not particularly amazing at rigging. I would say that this is kind of the overall way that you would create this, but you will want to, you may want to create a better rig than this, or even more than that, just learn to rig a little bit better. Now that we've got these in place, though, we can kind of just look to see where we want our pieces of our model to be. I should be doing this in front view so that it's actually in the right place. Oops. And then I'm going to drop this down a little bit. Okay, so now our character is all in the right spot. We can go in here, select these joints, rotate them, and you can see that the back arm will rotate out. We can also have the legs move here. Let's see how the head animates. Head's a little bit weirder. The head rotation joint should probably only have influence above here, and it may even be better to animate the hat here slightly differently. And got some weird stuff going on there. But as you can see, we've got a rig here that can be used for animating this particular character in more than one situation, and he will definitely be able to be reused. So, if you found this tutorial helpful, or you were going through and feel like you might continue with this method, there's going to be plenty of additional resources for other tutorials similar to 2D animation in Maya, and some included with Illustrator as well.